Hello everyone and welcome again to the SQL course. So in the last lecture we've seen how inner joins work, and in this lecture we are going to understand how left and right joins work and how they differ from the inner join. So I'm going to put here example left and right join. Now I'm going to use again some tables that I'm going to pick up from the course materials. We are using this left and right joins script to / left and right joins. I'm going to pick up these two tables that we are also creating, so those new two tables that should go to our sandbox database. Okay, I'm going to run both these tables. Just make sure that you run them. Also, we are creating this customers right left and customer country right left. These are also the examples that we are going to use in this section. Let's see what these two tables contain. If I go here to sandbox customer country right left, what we have right now is exactly the same type of information, or at least the same use case that we had in the inner join section, where we have some customers and also their countries, so the respective country of origin. And then, as you might imagine, in the customers right left, which is analogous to what we've done in the past lecture, we have several names of different customers. Now we have more customers and we have two different types of situations. While before we had a customer that we didn't have a country allocated to, right now we have two situations. We have that same situation here, but we also have cases where we have the customer and the country, but not the customer on the customer table itself. While that may sound strange, this will be a good example for us to understand what right and left joins mean. So if an inner join only returns the examples that are in both tables by a specific key, the right and left join don't really care if the thing on the other table on the other side, and by the other side I mean that there will be a master side. A master side will be defined by the right or left join. That's why I've been also calling these right and left tables. So the master side will be the only thing mandatory in the join. If that customer, for example, is not on the other table, we will get the columns for all the other customers with data, and for that example that is not on the other side, we have a null. But now we don't filter this row is not out as it was in the inner join. Let's see this in code. I think it's much easier than me explaining it. Okay, so I'm going to do the following. I'm going to pick up the customer name again. First, of course, let me put this as right. I'm going to call it R for right table, L for left table. So I'm going to customer ID, and then I'm going to pick up from the right table, I'll want the customer name, and then from the left table, I'll want to pick up the customer country, of course, so customer country. And then from, we already know this, so sandbox dot customers right left, so this table as R, and then I'm going to put here an inner join first, sandbox customer country right left as left. So the customers is our right table, that's what we are considering at the moment. The customer country right left is the left table. Okay, so the table that we will consider on the left, it's also return to this visual element with right table. We are considering this one, left table, we are considering this one. Let's first start with the left join, just to start here on the left. Oops, I had a typo here, and now I'll of course have to do our key. And our key is what? Is customer ID is equal to left, or the table on the left, customer ID. If I run this query, as we've seen, we only get as a return the customers that are at the same time in both tables, right? But we have here certain, for example, certain customers that don't have a country, and vice versa. Actually, I'm sorry about this because I'm doing this new alias on the spot. I'm going to switch this because it makes more sense, because the left one is on the R left and the right one is on our right. So let me change this to make a bit more sense. In this way, we are starting with the left join. So as I want all the customers, but it doesn't matter to me if they are on the customer country table or not, what I can do is do a left join. And you will see that when I run this one, I no longer have those two customers, in this case Adam and Joe, as filtered on this table. They are here, but with null values. Means that we don't know this information for these customers. This is extremely common in production setting. We only have certain information about certain customers, or other types of phenomenon that it's completely normal to happen in databases. So when you do inner joins, really be mindful of what's the domain of both tables. Understand if you are not filtering out something that is important for your use case. In this case, of course, when you do a left join, you also have a trade-off because you bring columns with null values and probably you have missing information, and that's maybe a problem depending on your use case. As you might have imagined, we have here a left join. What will happen if we use a right join? Let me just return to the joins. The left join is this right here. Everything that is on the table on the left and everything that is common. What is not on the table on the right will be returned as null. Always take these visuals in your mind when you are doing joins. So if I switch from a left to a right, what will happen is that we'll have all the countries, now this is interesting, all the countries that are repeated on that side. We have here a customer, for example, customer 7 doesn't exist in the customers table. But in this case, we have one row with the UK, but without correspondence here on the customer ID and customer name. Of course, this is a more weird example because it doesn't make much sense to have a customer with a country associated and not having it on a customer's table. It's a bit more weird, but even so, this is how this works. Now, one of the things that I've told you before is that in inner joins, the alias that you use here on the key doesn't really matter. Here for right and left joins, they do matter. So one of the best practices is to use the alias from the master table. What is the master table? Is the table that commands the join. If it's a left join, it's the table on the left. If it's a right join, it's the table on the right. So for example, if here I'm doing a left join, I should of course make the customer ID using the left table. If I'm doing a right join, I should use, and let me run this again with the right join, which will give us this. As you notice, we have a customer ID as null. And this doesn't make much sense in our use case because we know that there's a customer ID somewhere, which in this case is the 7, that doesn't have the correspondence on the other side. So to change this, we just don't know the name of that customer, basically. We can, to change this, in this case, the best practice is to use in this alias always the master table for left and right joins. As there is no master table in inner joins, this doesn't matter in inner joins. And now, as you can see, when I use the right table, you notice that the customer ID is already here. This really makes sense if you think about it, because here I'm bringing all the information that I have on the right table, hence here I'm bringing the column from the right. As I can find that correspondence with the join on the other table, my customer ID on the left table will be null because there is no customer 7 on that table. So here, if I bring the customer ID from the left table, I'll only bring the information that is available on that table, in this case, customers 1 to 6. Okay, really practice these right and left joins here in SQL. You'll see that after you understand both these three joins, inner, left, and right, you will power up your SQL skills by a lot. Because these are really common ways for us to combine tables in SQL, and of course we are not tied to a single key, a single column. One of the things that you may be wondering is that if we can only use a join, or we can only do a join by a single column, and before we go to the next lecture where we are going to see if that is the option, let's just recap what we've done here in this lecture. So we've created here both of these tables, a new customers table that I called customers right left because of the exercise that we are doing, with a customer ID and customer name, and I also created a customer country right left that has the customer and its country of origin, or where this customer is based. Then what I've done is just insert some examples, in this case these customers John, Adam, Anne, May, Susan and Joe, and then inserted some customers and their countries. The caveat is that we have certain customers that are not here on this country right left, so in this table. There is also here a strange example of a customer that has a country but is not on the customers table. So what happened is that then we performed a right join and a left join to understand how these types of join work and how they do not filter the end table just like inner join has done. Basically, they just consider that the information that wasn't found on the other table is considered null, no information. Of course, using right, left, inner joins depend on your application and what you want to do when you are crossing domains between tables. Okay, so let's continue and understand how we can do these multiple key joins in the next lecture. I'll see you there.